Here are the top stories on the hour. 1 dead, 3 injured in Seoul stabbing rampage. Nigeria ties Canada in a goalless draw as they open Women's World Cup campaign in Australia. Amsterdam bans cruise ship to restrict tourists. Welcome to the World News on VOP TV. I am Joy Adesua Iramoseli. We begin with Women's World Cup in Australia, where Nigeria took on Canada in the second Group B match at the Melbourne Rectangular Stadium in Melbourne. Reigning Olympic champions Canada are ranked 7th in the world, while Nigeria are 40th in FIFA's ranking. The Super Falcons came into the tournament on the backs of 2 wins and 3 losses in their last 5 outings, while the Maple Leafs have recorded 4 wins in their last 5 matches. Canada started the match looking every bit the World Cup contenders they are, but ended up falling flat as the match wore out. Nigeria, on the other hand, looked all at the sea before going from strength to strength. With 1 match completed for all teams in Group B, Australia sits on top with 3 points, while Canada and Nigeria ended with 0-0 at the Melbourne Rectangular Stadium. Iraqi security forces dispersed hundreds of demonstrators who stormed the main gate of the Swedish embassy in the capital, Baghdad, in response to police Stockholm sanctioning another planned burning in Quran. Videos posted on social media showed a large number of protesters inside the Swedish embassy's perimeters, as well as black smoke and fire coming from the building. Security forces armed with electric batons chased protesters and used water cannons to disperse them and put out the fire. Eyewitnesses said that the protesters withdrew from the perimeter of the Swedish embassy after setting part of it on fire. Several journalists covering the protest were detained by security forces and at least 1 was beaten. Ziad Al-Ajili, the head of the Iraq-based Journalistic Freedom Observatory, said 3 photojournalists work with international news agencies were arrested and another was beaten by security forces and his camera destroyed. The planned protest in Sweden took place later on Thursday outside the Iraqi embassy in Stockholm. It was organized by Salwan Monica, and Iraqi's national in Sweden who burnt a copy of the Quran outside a mosque in Stockholm last month during the Muslim holiday Hel-Adha, in a solo that sparked outrage in Iraq and around the world. One person has been killed and 3 more wounded after a man went on a stabbing rampage near a subway station in the South Korean capital, Seoul, on Friday. The police disclosed that the attack took place near the Silim subway station in southwest Seoul, adding that the suspect had been detained by police at the scene. Footages showed orange-vested emergency responders running towards the incident carrying stretchers and the area cordoned off with yellow tape. According to the official statistics, South Korea is typically an extremely safe country with a murder rate of just 1.3 per 100,000 people in 2021. Rescue efforts have resumed in India's West Maharashtra state after a landslide triggered by torrential rains killed at least 16 people, with many others feared trapped under debris. The state deputy chief minister tweeted that the scores of rescuers and trained trekkers have been deployed to find people trapped by the landslide, which occurred late on Wednesday. He added that the harsh weather conditions have hampered rescue efforts and authorities have sent in medical teams to help the injured. A statement by the National Disaster Response Force disclosed that the search operations were suspended on Thursday night due to heavy rainfall plus the threat of further landslides in the dark. While 75 people have been rescued, many others are still stuck. Now, Amsterdam has banned cruise ships from the center of the city as part of efforts to limit tourism and cut pollution. It comes after the Dutch capital launched a stay-away campaign in March in a bid to deter people intending to visit and engage in rowdy behavior. The initiative is targeted at young British men, alerting them to the negative consequences of their actions on locals as well as potential punishments. The campaign by the Dutch City Council is part of its efforts to clean up the city, known for both its beautiful architecture, art, and canals, as well as its liberal attitude to cannabis and prostitution. Centre-right party D66 stated that cruises are incompatible with its sustainability ambition. It added that the proposal to shut Amsterdam's cruise ship terminals east of its main railway station was adopted by a large majority of the city's council. D66 runs the city with Social Democrats, PVDA, and GroenLinks environmentalists. It stated that Amsterdam must reduce the number of tourists, with removing passengers from cruise ships one way of doing it. The party also stated that the proposal building of a new bridge over the river IJ is impossible if cruise ships remain. A senior Washington defense official stated that the controversy cluster munitions supplied by the United States are being used effectively by Ukrainian forces in their counter-offensive against Russia's invasion. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby told reporters on Thursday that some feedbacks have been gotten from the Ukrainians and they are using them quite effectively. Kirby also mentioned that the U.S. provided cluster bombs, which are banned by more than 120 countries, were having an impact on Russian defensive formation and the maneuvering of the Russian forces. The Iranian ambassador of Vienna has held a meeting with foreign and European policy advisor to the Federal Chancellor of the Republic of Austria to discuss bilateral relations and international developments. In a post on his Twitter account on Friday, the Iranian ambassador of Vienna wrote that he had held a meeting with foreign and European policy advisor to the Federal Chancellor of the Republic of Austria. The diplomat wrote that in the meeting, various aspects of Iran-Australia relations, as well as the latest international development, were discussed. Still in the Middle East, the U.S. is sending Marines and additional warships to Middle East waters. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin ordered the deployment of a Marine Expeditionary Unit and an amphibious ready group to the region. An MEU typically includes about 2,000 Marines transported aboard 3 amphibious warships that can launch helicopters and watercraft. The announcement comes days after the Pentagon deployed F-35 and F-16 fighter jets, as well as the destroyer USS Thomas Hodner. Iran says it views U.S. military vessels locking in the waters of the Persian Gulf as a threat to its security and a source of tension and instability in the region. On Monday, Iran's foreign minister spokesman warned the United States to refrain from any provocative move in the region, especially close to the country's border. Britain's governing Conservative Party suffered 2 thumping defeats on Friday in a trial of special election, but avoided a doubling after holding on former Premier Boris Johnson's seat in suburban London. Though the main opposition Labour Party and the smaller centrist Liberal Democrats overturned massive Conservative majorities to win a seat apiece, the Conservatives found some crumbs of comfort in their narrow success in Uxbridge and South Ruislip in West London. Still, the result of Thursday's elections, if replicated at a likely general election next year, would certainly see Labour emerge as the biggest single party, possibly with a sizable overall majority. Despite holding on Johnson's former seat by just 495 votes, the three election results show the Conservative losing ground across a broad range of voters. Suburban Londoners, small-town dwellers in the north of India, and rural residents in the southwest. Senior officials from Japan, the US, and South Korea condemned North Korea over its recent ICBM-class ballistic missile launched and vowed to step up their trilateral cooperation to strengthen deterrence and sanctions against the North, while stressing the need for dialogue with Pyongyang. Their meeting on Thursday in the center Japanese city of Kurazawa comes days after North Korea's solid-fuel ICBM launch last week, which landed in the water off the western coast of Japan's northern main island of Hokkaido, and one day after the launch of two missiles on Wednesday. The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Sung Kim, also stated that the United States was working hard to gather information about an American soldier who fled to the north earlier this month. 23-year-old Travis King had been held in South Korea on assault charges and was released on July 10th after serving his time. He was taken to the airport on Monday but did not board his flight home. Instead, he joined a tourist trip to the border and bolted to the North Korean side. Kim stated that he and his Japanese counterpart, Takahiro Funakoshi, Director General of the Asian and Oceanian Affairs Bureau at the Foreign Ministry, and South Korean's Kim Gon, Special Representative for Korea Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, were to also discuss their leaders' summit planned for next month in the United States. Finally, the gladiators in the war in Sudan appear to be given in to concerted pressure to negotiate the political settlement. However, they differ on the post-war architecture of the country, something that could drag the peace bid. Both the leader of the Sudanese junta and the erstwhile deputy and now enemy appear to be softening their stance, going by their public statement. But they continue to fight. A drone strike conducted by the Rapid Support Force (RSF) killed 14 people and injured 15 in the South Khartoum on July 19th. Lieutenant General Al-Bahan, who has pulled out a Jeddah initiative sponsored by Saudi Arabia and the United States, is now amenable to the talks. He has rejected an earlier proposal by the Intergovernmental Authority on Development quartered to deploy the East African Standby Forces. After boycotting the IGAD-quartered summit in Ethiopia, chaired by Kenyan President William Ruto 2 weeks ago, Lieutenant General Al-Bahan this week sent his delegation to Jeddah to resume negotiations with the Rapid Support Force. And that's it on VOP World News. I am Joy Adesuwa Ramosele. VOP Business comes up shortly. Stay with me.